Welcome everyone to my second video on the Batman Arkham series. Today we're going to be talking about the 5 worst villains in the Arkham series. I made a video on the best villains a couple of days ago, so if you haven't seen that one, please check it out after this one, or see that before this one. Doesn't particularly matter, but I appreciate any support. And with that being said, let's get straight into number 5. So the 5th worst villain, in my opinion, is actually going to be Hush. Now, the reason I put him at 5 is because he isn't a main villain in any of the games. He is a side mission in City and Night, and what he set up in City was very, very cool. Of course, we had the side mission where you were finding, bodies with bits of their face missing, which of course is a pretty, compelling case for Batman to follow. And then, of course, we meet him and he has Bruce Wayne's face. But then when we get to Arkham Knight, his side mission is so disappointing, and they could have taken a lot of different story elements in certain directions and made a very interesting story between the characters, as in Hush and Batman. But unfortunately, that isn't really what happened. We just rock up to Wayne Manor and we beat his ass. So it's very, I don't want to say lazy, but it's just he's a character that they could have done a lot more with. It's not more so that he's bad, it's just more so that he's very disappointing. So next up, at number 4, I actually have Killer Croc. And Killer Croc is actually a character I really like, but in the Arkham games, I thought that he wasn't done the best. So we see him very, very briefly in City. Of course, his main appearances were in Asylum and Origins. In Origins, and you could say the same for Asylum, I thought that the boss fight that he had in both those games was pretty good, but he wasn't in the story for a lot of it, especially in Origins, where we see he's in the game at the start, but then he doesn't really show up again, at least as far as I can remember in Origins. Whereas, in Asylum, we see him at the start, and we don't really see him again until the end. As I said, he does have great boss fights, and I do actually like his character design and how the actual boss fights and stuff play in those games, but I don't think he's written well at all, really. And when we see him in Arkham Knight, his design is terrible. I do not like his design in that game, and just, it's a cool idea that he's older now and he's sort of more, savage, and he looks more like a crocodile, sure, but the design doesn't particularly fit him that much, even though that doesn't really make sense, because I know he is, a crocodile, but the design's a bit over the top, in my opinion. And I think Arkham Knight being the last game, they should have given him a much better send-off like they did with characters like Mr. Freeze. Coming in at number 3, I have Bane from Arkham Asylum, and to a lesser extent Arkham City, because he's not really in that game. In the last video on the best villains, if you haven't seen that one, as I said, please check it out, because I'm about to spoil one of the entries in that one. In Asylum and again City, Bane was in that video as one of the worst villains, one of the best villains, because of Arkham Origins. However, in the games that came before it, he is terrible. And I will just quickly restate what I said in that video. He is insanely stupid. He is treated as, a lot of video games do that now with the stronger characters. It's like they're strong, but they're stupid. And of course, we know, especially, and Origins even showed us that Bane isn't dumb, not even in this universe. He's just, in those games, they just had no idea how to write him. So they just, gave him a boss fight, had Batman beat him, and then we never see him again. Which not only is that a waste of his character, but the boss fight was bad as well, and his design is bad. Just everything about the character up until Origins was not done very well. And considering he wasn't in Arkham Knight, you could say it's just because he didn't have any place in the story, which, is true. However, I think he would have been a better final villain than Scarecrow and the Arkham Knight. Now, at number 2, I actually have Black Mask, and I have nothing against this character. However, the Arkham games don't really know how to incorporate him into their stories. We saw in Arkham Origins, it looked like he was going to be the big villain of that game, and spoiler alert for like a decade-old game, Black Mask ends up being the Joker. So, of course, people were excited because it was a new villain. In Arkham Asylum and City, the main villain was the Joker. And even in City, it sort of might not seem like he's the main villain because of Ra's al Ghul and Hugo Strange, but technically speaking, Joker is still the main villain in that game. And of course, we all love the Joker, but we want to see Batman's other villains be the main threat in at least a couple of the games. And of course, once we got to Origins, people were excited to see that, and especially a character like Black Mask, which is a character a lot of people don't really know about, especially people who, are only playing the games as because they're a casual Batman fan, so they wouldn't know about that character and a lot of other characters that Origins use, like Shiva, Firefly, Copperhead, Deathstroke, maybe to a lesser extent, more people know him, but you understand what I'm trying to say. So, in that game, he was good, but then of course we find out it wasn't him. And then you have a boss fight, and then I'm pretty sure he goes down in a single takedown, which is a bit embarrassing and very funny. But of course, in terms of actually writing the character, it's not great. And then in Arkham Knight, we don't see him until the Red Hood story DLC, which he actually has a very cool boss fight that I like a lot. But you have to shoot him 50 times, and that motherfucker just won't die. But he gets killed by Jason Todd, so yeah, they don't really know how to write him, if you ask me, but hopefully you can sort of see where I'm coming from. I don't hate the character, I like him a lot, but the Arkham games don't really utilize him very well. And in the number one spot, the worst villain in the Arkham games, in my opinion, is the Arkham Knight. The Arkham Knight is the worst villain simply because of how predictable the identity of the Arkham Knight is, and his motives are very stupid. Just to give you one example, he, of course, it's Jason Todd. He, of course, used to be Robin. He knows Batman won't kill, so why wouldn't he just put people in the tanks that Batman is going around shooting? Because then he can't do anything, right? He can't shoot those tanks because there's people in them, and if he shoots them, they're gonna die. So, of course, Rocksteady wanted us to use the Batmobile, so they found a convenient way to make Jason seem like a actual idiot, which they did. He looks like a dumbass, but either way, he is written very poorly. As I said, if he appeared in the other games for more than a second, or just a passing mention or something in the other games, then it would have sort of worked. But the fact that in this game he comes out of nowhere and they start hinting at the fact that it's him. When I say hinting, I mean very obviously, basically just telling us that it is him. And then when he reveals it, it's so obvious, especially to people who know anything about the Batman character, at least, read comics and are a big fan of the character. Everyone knew who this was. And I feel like even people who aren't into Batman probably could have guessed who it was when Jason started showing up out of nowhere. But that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. As I said, please check out the last Batman video I did. But if not, consider subscribing. I'm making Batman Arkham videos every week. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.